Hey there, I'm Jen Therian, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm a former 9-to-5er that dove into entrepreneurship 8 years ago with zero business experience. I'm a wife, mama of 2 young girls, boutique owner, jeweler designer, and now the proud owner and coach leading Goldilynx Permanent Jewelry. I have a passion to empower fellow business babes. This podcast is made to equip you with everything you need to succeed, from actionable marketing steps to digging deep on your mindset. I know firsthand the heart, hard work, and let's be real, at times a struggle that makes up this amazing journey. You want to know what has enabled me to shine the brightest? Coaching plus community. Here at Goldilynx, we share openly, educate, and lift each other up. Expect to get linked with fellow PJ owners that will do just that, sprinkled with plenty of fun along the way. Competition is an old school thought, and connection is the way. Get ready to feel inspired. Welcome to the Goldilynx podcast. Hey there, we're in for such a treat today. My chat with Michael Alyse Taylor. She actually owns Bonded in Charlotte. She's a permanent jeweler since 2022, but we're actually going to talk today about her new coaching venture. It is about setting a foundation for yourself and really building your self-confidence, your self-worth, getting really clear on your why and how important that is in building that foundation for a successful business. So I felt it was so amazing to talk about this first before we dive into another conversation all about her permanent jewelry business. So get ready for this yummy conversation with Michael. Okay. Hey, Michael. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, I'm
so excited to chat with you. Michael, like I already introduced her from Bonded and Michael Alyse Taylor's coaching, soon to be. So if you can just start us off with telling us about you. Who are you?
Yes. Okay. So let's do in the nutshell, right? Yes. I am I like to say sometimes a serial entrepreneur. I spent 9 years as a photographer in the West Coast. I operated in 3 different states. I moved 12 times in 12 years.
Oh my gosh.
So crazy and hectic. And then I moved out to the West and didn't move my photography business with me. And I ended up, my friends they were the first permanent jewelers in Utah. And I ended up opening their first out-of-state franchise and kind of meant to do it as like a side project kind of thing. Yeah. Because the whole purpose was to move into coaching. And then I just fell in love with how I could show up for my clients with permanent jewelry. And it turned into this whole thing. And all of a sudden I have a brick and mortar and employees, and I don't know what the heck that's all about, but it's the whole thing. So now we've got both things going on. I'm very science mixed with woo, mixed with we can do this. And yet I run into my own blocks all the time, every day. And I believe that growth is a never-ending journey and that there's always something to be learned. And yet we also, as we are perfect and amazing. I guess that's a synopsis of 30-second trailer, Michael.
Yeah. And I know we talked prior because again, when I heard and someone told me about Michael, it was actually someone who met her at a retreat. And she was saying how she was coming up with this amazing coaching program focused on, again, not relying on your partner. How do you word that? Not relying on your partner for your self-worth, or how would you put that into a little tagline?
I think that the tagline for my coaching is who I help, or I help women in crumbling relationships or struggling relationships who really want to get grounded in their self-reconnection. And so the idea is you don't need to rely on your partner. And so I think we were taught that 2 people have to come together as a whole. Find your other half. The terminology for that is that
you completely.
Yes, you completely. The terminology is that you are not inherently whole. And I think that's inaccurate. We are supposed to come together as 2 wholes, and that's when we become really powerful. And so my goal with coaching and my journey that got me here, right, is I showed up as a half. So did my partner. Yeah. And then as you grow, you get to a certain level where if you want to continue growing, you cannot, what got you to where you are won't get you to where you're going. And so something had to give. And so I leaned into that and got really reconnected with myself. And once I did that, things started getting a whole lot.
Right.
I don't want to say easier, but definitely more aligned.
Right. And I think so again, we talked about her, obviously she has a permanent jewelry business, which is like very successful. And we want to touch on that almost maybe in a different time we talk, because actually I think what's so amazing is that you have both these components that you can share, which is so much value to who's listening. I loved the fact because I know when I started my business, and granted, I wasn't in an actually failing relationship. I wouldn't say that. I'm still with my husband, Jordan. We weren't married yet, but it was the first few years we were together. We moved from Vegas to Colorado, and it was this adjustment period. But I decided to open a shop, and that was my first business. And there was a lot of growing pains there with us. And there was a lot of rough periods where I felt like I was like looking to him to validate what I was doing. And I wasn't getting that from him. So I kept internalizing that and thinking like I was going to fail at this because I wasn't getting this major support from him that I needed. Like I was looking for him to tell me I was doing everything right or give me the confidence I needed, when really I just had to look within myself and do that. And I couldn't get that from him. Just in every aspect of relationship, like you said, it has to come from yourself versus looking for that other person to fulfill that for you. And I think that if I would have known that or had a better foundation to start, that's why I think this conversation is important. So whatever stage you are in business, but especially if you're starting a business and you feel like your partners are not on board, is not letting that play into your self-worth or how worthy or capable you are. So I think this conversation is so great to set a foundation, like a foundation of a house that you need in order to build that successful business. So how do you feel like that played into, because obviously you had a photography business prior to, and I don't know how long you've been in your relationship, but if you want to share kind of your journey, I guess, within that too, and how it led to coaching and everything. So
yeah. Oh my gosh. So much there. So,
I know.
So me and my partner have been together almost 13 years.
Wow. Okay.
And arguably the first part of our marriage on the surface felt very successful. Like we had good communication and we had this and we had that. And we weren't necessarily struggling, but there were these underlying things that like looking back, we can be like, oh yeah. And then there was like one big thing that kind of was an issue, but we were able to, we're going to put that to the side. But with business, I was constantly looking to him. And ironically, he believed in me 100%.
That's awesome.
Like he was, and not everybody has that support, but he was like, yeah, totally. I'm here for it. You want to do this? You want to start a photography business? You want to spend money on this conference for this photography business? You want to do this? I'm here for it. I support you. I think you can do anything, blah, blah, blah. And that was never enough. My photography business, and there's a whole bunch of things that played into that, right? Like I had to move my business every year. And so looking back, I look at that and I'm like, it's a miracle that I was able to keep that running and have the amount of clientele that I did for as long as I did. But I never made what I would have considered like a successful photography business. I never hit 6 figures in my photography business. And for whatever reason, that was my number.
Yes, always.
Yeah. And it didn't matter how much he believed in me, because on a deep level, I ended up learning later that I didn't believe in myself.
Yes.
That I didn't believe I can bring in that amount of money, that I didn't believe I could handle the responsibility, that and so I was never going to get there no matter how much support I got from him or anyone else, because I had to believe it. It had to come from me.
Yes.
I think that plays into any stage of your business, right? Because I'll be honest, like that's something I'm still dealing with. As I go into this coaching thing, I'm like, I need to know everything. If I don't know everything, what if I don't know everything? And what if I can't, like, I need it all, right? Yeah. What if I can't hold space for the amount of people that I want to hold space for? What if I can't? And so like at every level, you're going to feel that. And yet now it's different because I know that I have to figure that inside myself. I think like we were talking before we started the recording with the podcast about how one rule I've made this year is that I've been nixing like conferences because I get into this serial place of I am seeking validation outside myself. So I'm going to go to these conferences and they're going to tell me exactly what I need to do. And they're going to tell me I can do it, and they're going to believe in me, and they're going to give me all this, and that'll make it so I can do it.
Yes.
But it doesn't.
Yes.
And then you come home on a high, and then After about a week, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm the worst. I'm broken. Everyone else is doing this, I'm sure. What is wrong with me?
It's so hard because it's like these there's so much information out there, which is a beautiful thing because we can constantly be learning, right? And then all these things of what we should be doing, like how often we should post, how we should post. And it gets paralyzing because like you said, it's like you come home, and conferences can be an amazing, beautiful thing because you do learn so much, especially if you're newer at your business whether you're new, but you're always learning and evolving, right? You always want to elevate and get better at what you've been doing. So it requires new things along the way to learn and know. But at the same time, if you come home and you're like, you don't have the belief in yourself or just really sit down and implement, and then you just keep searching for things and like more knowledge, what else do I need? And it's no, what did you just learn? Let's sit and be silent and implement that, like you said, rather than just keep going and being like avoidance, right?
Well, and I think there's something to be said about you can get all the knowledge you want, but if you aren't handling your deep core issues, you will never be able to implement it. So like I was in plenty of mentorships, conferences, and I still do believe you heard about me from a conference I was at 2 weeks ago, but I was very intentional with that conference. Yeah. And I put myself in a room with people that I didn't think that I was good enough to be in. And I did it on purpose because I knew that the energy and the frequency there would help pull me up to where I wanted to be. So it was very intentional. I wasn't looking for somebody to tell me, give me the solution, because at the end of the day, the truth is we have all the answers inside of us, and conferences and mentors are really great because they can help us like fast track and skip some of the hard of the like A, B, C, D, E, F, G to get there. And so you don't have to go through quite as much of a pain point, right? Like I'm going to give you a roadmap where I had to be the one cutting down the trees and figuring out which way to go. Right. And so it can be such an amazing shortcut, except you have to have the like foundation, like you were talking about a house, like the foundation has to be you, and you have to get back in touch with your intuition and who you are and being able to look inside yourself for those support pieces instead of seeking them from the outside.
Oh my God, I just get chills. I'm like, because honestly, it's even also thinking about why you're even doing it, your intention. Like you said, your intention behind going to that conference was probably different than you went last month versus if you would have done it 2 years ago, right? It's really figuring out, they say your why, right? With why you're doing it. But really, it's more than just, I want to make money, I want to support my family. It has to be deeper than that. Like, why are you doing this? What's your intention? Really like checking your mindset and not just going into things blind and expecting someone to fill you with all this knowledge and inspiration. And like you said, expecting them to fulfill that within yourself. Like it has to, yes, it can be amazing, like you said. And it's honestly, I truly believe in like coaches, mentors, programs. Like I'm all about it because there's no way I would be where I'm at my business or myself without those things. But I have to say, I used to buy courses all the time and just go through them, but I would never do anything with them. Like, so I felt like I was just like being filled with information, but like you said, it didn't go anywhere.
The amount of courses that I'm signed up for that I didn't even end up taking is shocking. But I think something you said is really important, right? Like you mentioned the why, and you said it and the why, because it feels like such this, it's like this buzzword, right? What's your why? What's your why?
Yes.
That leaning into figuring out what your why is the foundation. Because one of my mentors that is a longtime friend too, Susie Holman, she has a podcast, I think, called Your Business Will Heal You, but she says your business will heal you. Yeah. And it's so true because your business is going to force you, if you want to grow, your business is based on you. It starts with you, the founder. It is going to come from you. And you have to have your why. And for whatever reason, for me, digging into my why is what took me on that healing journey to get to where I am, because it can't just be, I want to make money, I want to support my family. It's got to be something so much deeper. Like, how are you serving the world? There's a concept called, have you ever heard of Ikigai?
I have, but you can explain it for us.
Let's see. I'm bad at explaining, like,
I know.
like regurgitating book information, but the concept, I'm trying to remember the 4 like categories, right? Don't quote me, but go look up it's a book. It's called Ikigai. It's a really interesting concept. But the concept is based on, I think it's a Japanese word, but it's these researchers that went to this community, and there's all these people who live like a super long time. I think they're called centennials or something. But the concept is like, what makes us fulfilled in life, right? What is our ikigai, which is like our powerhouse? Like, where should we be operating in? And it's like this, it's those circles that like intersect, right? So there's these four circles and then they intersect in the middle, and in the middle is your ikigai. So the four circles are like, what do you love to do? What are you good at? What does the world need? And what can you be paid for?
Yes.
And the middle of that is your ikigai, which for me brought me to my why, which ended up leading me into leaning into coaching.
It's so true, because some things sound, that's why I'm big on, I always use these words again and again, because I can't believe how much they've served me, is like intention, which is like the same, your why, and clarity, just getting clarity. When people say this looks fun, or even with permanent jewelry, let's use an example. Oh, that looks like fun. But when you actually dive in and actually get into the business, it's much more than what you think always. So,
oh my gosh, yeah.
So it's like you end up having to deal with those things eventually. Like I said, going back to what you said, I said this very early on in business, like the first year or two I was in business. I was like, nothing is making me face myself more than being an entrepreneur. And I remember saying that to a friend, and she looked at me like I was crazy. It was one of those moments where you remember. And I was like, it's so true though. I'm challenging my self-worth constantly, what my money mindset, all these things. If I go to a 9 to 5 and I'm just working for someone and I'm just, you're almost, I want to say like a zombie mode, you're just going through these motions. You're not challenging yourself like that every day.
Well, you're safe.
Yes, exactly. Everything's up to you with this, right? So you really, and also too, things become easier when your why and clarity and intentions are so clear, because then you don't get caught up in these little things of, oh my God, I'm embarrassed to show up in my stories and talk. It's, why are you doing that? You know what I mean? If you get clear on your intention, it's not about you. It's about what your big why is, right? That's what it becomes about.
Well,
so
sales is just energy, right? There's something, and this is from Susie Holman too. Yeah. So I just took her retreat, so that's why she's fresh up in my mind. I just want to off a call with her, and she has some really great nuggets of her one-liners. But the way she phrases it is that sales really is just a transfer of energy, and so I'm going to take that and expand on that and say, so if sales is a transfer of energy, then you better get in touch with your energy, because whatever is going on inside of you is what you're putting out. And on a frequency level, if you get into the frequency, like I told you, I warned you I was a little, right?
No, I love it. I love it.
It has so much science behind it. So it's not that word. Yes. But if you get into the frequency, if you are putting off a low vibe frequency, you're going to attract what you're putting out, you're going to pull in. Yes. And so if you're frustrated in your business because you are I'm trying to make more money, I feel like I'm putting myself out there, I'm doing all the things they tell me to do, and I just feel like I'm hitting a wall, I would take a step back and look in and see what is the frequency that I'm putting out, because it all starts with me as the founder.
Yes. And I have to say, I will say this, because you do know certain people, if you can think of someone in your life where all this stuff always happens to them, okay? They get the flat tire, they always get the rudest customer. I'm like, really? God. And I just feel, again, that's energy, right? It's energy matching energy. I totally believe that too. And it's funny being an entrepreneur prior to permanent jewelry, and I've been doing permanent jewelry for 1.5 years now. But I think I've been saying this a lot with friends that are within the company too. And we talk about this. I do feel like so much has fallen into place with this leg of my business. But I feel because when I went into this, it felt so right. And my intentions were so clear and everything was so clear. It was different than my other business where I was new at it. I had to really build myself through that business. So it didn't start the same way as this business. You know what I mean? And I feel really great things have been attracted to me, but I think that has to do, with the work I've done on myself. There's no way this business would be what it is if I would have started it when I first started entrepreneurship 7-8 years ago. There's no way. There's definitely there's a difference, and there's an alignment there that makes sense to me.
That's a journey, and that's normal. And I think talking to people at different stages of their journey, every stage every stage has a purpose, right? And so if you're in the stage where you feel like you're really you're learning something, you're getting, keep going, don't give up, don't let it beat you down, because we've all been there. It's normal. You're not alone. You're not broken. You're not doing it the wrong way. You're just in the messy middle.
Yes.
And it's fine.
Yep. And honestly, as you said, we're always growing. We're always questioning, even with you entering this new coaching realm. But I think too, you get to a point where you do build up your confidence and what your tensions are, though, that it comes from a different place of fear. So you know what I mean? It's confident fear.
Ironically, it's a more it's a more pure fear for me now. I think in the past, it was definitely really heavy in the what are people going to think of me?
Yeah.
And that's not gone all the way. Like that will never leave. I just have to go with it different. But now it's more of I just want to serve people in the purest way. I just want to make sure that I am taking care of them the best way that they need to be taken care of. And so it's such a different place, but it's still the same block that you have to deal with.
Yes. And also too, funny enough, I feel like you almost get used to that growth fear. So it's like a familiar place too. So you also deal with it differently than in the very beginning where it's so new and you're just like, what am I doing? You almost are like schooled in it. And again, you built up this confidence and like callous. I want to say callous, but that's just a weird word to use, like to that feeling. So it's not as scary. You
get tools. You like the more you experience it and get through it, even if no one's guiding you and saying, hey, this tool will help you, which is where coaches and mentors really come into place, because they can be like, hey, here's the tools and the things you need to help you get past these blocks. And so without that, like you're stumbling and finding it, but every time you go through it, you learn a new skill, whether you're doing it one at a time on your own or you have a mentor or coach who's giving you 10 or 15 each time. Every time you do it though, you get better at it. And every time you come up against it, that's the way the world works. It's going to be a deeper, harder version of it, because now you have tools and so you're better at it. And so it's, hey, you can handle more. You can handle more, because every time you get through it, it's such a growth. It's like when you're lifting weights, right? Like you start with 5 pounds and you're doing good, and then all of a sudden it gets easy. And so the next thing that gets thrown at you by your trainer is 10 pounds. And you're like, oh, this is so hard now. And then the next thing is 15 pounds. That's how I feel like business and really life is meant to be. Like this truth of we are perfect as we are.
Yes.
And we get to be here to grow and learn and be the best we can be, can both exist simultaneously.
Yes. And it's so great to have those reminders, because even as an entrepreneur, you're going to have those days where you're like, what am I doing? I suck at everything. You know what I mean? It's just so normal. And I think we get so caught up thinking we're the only ones that think this. And then we go on social media when we're having down days and we see all these people with these amazing reels and having success and talking about how much money they're making. And we're like, because entrepreneurship can be very lonely. And even if you're also just talking about your coaching, if you're in a relationship where you're feeling that way, sometimes it's hard to voice those things, even to our closest friends, if they don't understand, and also they're not entrepreneurs. Like how, and not saying you're geared just towards entrepreneurs. I don't know if you are, I guess. I shouldn't say that, but I feel like
I'm not. Okay. And I think with my relationship stuff, and like the reason that's such a key piece for me is because I felt so alone. And I have been doing this entrepreneurial journey, which like I know how to feel alone, because you're right. Entrepreneurship can feel so alone, especially when you're looking outside of you for validation. It's extra lonely then. So it can feel really lonely. But as I was going through what I went through with my husband, especially coming from a place where like people thought we were this great couple, and my husband is a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a good guy, but society is going through a change. Like women are showing up different, and that requires men to show up different too. And we're all figuring out like, how does that mesh together and what does that look like? And as I was going through that journey of, okay, I had this great relationship, I thought, and now I'm like literally thinking about divorce. What is happening? Who do I talk to? And then the few people I did talk to gave really shitty advice. Excuse my language, but oh my gosh, luckily I had done the work that I had done, because some of the things that they said could have really put me back in a negative place. And so I think like seeking out like coaching, and the reason I really want to show up in this space is like, I have training now. Not only do I have experience in it, but now I have training. And so it's not, hey, this is what worked for me, guys, so it's going to be what works for you, right? No, I am here to help you find the answers that are within yourself and help you get back in touch with yourself so you can hear them and you can get back grounded in this right here, who you are, right? And so I think that's the key point there.
So how do you feel like, again, and you feel free to answer obviously what you feel comfortable answering, but why do you feel like it took a turn in your relationship? Was it when you were elevating yourself and you were evolving and changing? Did that lend into?
It was a perfect storm for us. So we've been playing with the timeline of this a lot, actually, because my husband actually is going to be leaning into this as well. Like he really wants to start a men's group because he felt really alone on the guy side of this because he had no support. And everybody he was talking to was like, she should be happy because you're making a bunch of money. And he was like, that's not helpful. Yeah. Yeah. And so we've been talking a lot about, okay, what are the key pieces of the story? What are the pivot points? Because we have a bunch throughout our 13 years of marriage. And looking back, like there was some we didn't even recognize in the time. Yeah. But like really quick, like where we came from. So it started, we were in Arizona right before we moved to North Carolina. And it started out there. There started to be little things that like, because I had been at this point on my journey, like my self-growth journey for 3-ish years. And so I was like leaning into it. And as I learned more and as you know more, you do better. Yes. It's just like, it is the truth. Once you see something, you cannot unsee it. Yep. So I started seeing things and I started like in a frustrated way, calling some things out and things would get better. So I'd call something out and things would get better for a week or two. And then we would slip back into the bad habits. And it was just like here and there. And so it wasn't a big deal. And then we moved, picked up our lives out of nowhere, moved to North Carolina, no friends, no support, new house, new job. I walked away from my photography business, which honestly, I had wrapped up my entire identity in. And I've got 2 kids and my husband went into this new job that ended up being a really toxic environment.
Oh no.
So now he goes through this really toxic environment with pretty toxic people for the next year. And like, it totally breaks him. Like complete, like this man has never had anxiety in his life and he's having anxiety attacks. Like it was awful. So he was going through his own journey and I started to get to this point. And initially it was like, "Gall, something's wrong with me." That's one of my negative cognitions that I deal with a lot is that I am the problem. Yeah. So if something's wrong, it's my fault. I need to fix it. It's no one else's fault. And it's my job to carry everyone else's crap. Mm-hmm. And so I really leaned in for the first like probably 6 months to a year of something's wrong with me. And then I started being like, hey, you've got a part to play in this. And he was in the middle of a trauma. And I felt unheard and I started getting louder and I got louder and I got louder and it wasn't working. I was trying to convince him, right? Please see it my way. And then that validation of me seeking his validation came in and he couldn't see me anymore. Like he was so caught up in his own trauma that there was like a filter between us. We couldn't communicate anymore. Like it was this whole world. Yeah. And I think that I was still going on my self journey. Like I'm still on this journey. And yes, I feel like that played a part into it, but also like I had all of my pillars ripped out from under me, like every one of them. And we knew how to move. And for whatever reason, where we moved to, it just like, we struggled making like friends and I couldn't find a good gym. And so I lost my workout routine. And I ended up in a full burnout because I was trying to do it I was trying to carry it for him. Mm-hmm. I was trying to carry it for me. And I knew more now. So I couldn't unsee it. And so I was frustrated about it. And I was trying to convince him about it. And so it was like this whole perfect storm. Yes. And I think it got to a point where like I got to a point where we like it didn't end home separation because I was so burnt out that I couldn't work out. Like all of the good habits that I had built over time, I couldn't do them because I was so broken and so burnt out. And so like I had to go into like cocoon mode and I asked him to move into a different room, which was the hardest day of my life because that's a piece of me having to say, okay, I can't carry all of this. You've got to move over here. Yeah. And I think that was a pivot point for me because I was able to go into a space where it was just my space. Yeah. And I had to sit in that. Yeah. And we had therapists. We went through some therapists and eventually we found a really great therapist that was helpful that we started meeting with her and then I signed up for coaching school. Yeah. Because I was at that point in my growth journey. Mm-hmm. And so not only did I have a therapist who was helping us with the past therapy stuff. Yeah. But I now entered a coaching school where we had to coach each other. Mm-hmm. And I was getting all of the coaching from these fellow people. All of these tools were being used on me to rewire and to release and it was like crazy. By the end of the I don't think the coaching school is even over. Like partway through the coaching school, me and Austin went to this in-person retreat with this therapist, and she does EMDR, which is like an active form of, it's a rewiring, right? It's a whole thing. And we spent a weekend with her, and then it took about a month and a half after that. And then we finally made it over this hill of, okay, we are both showing up for us now. Mm-hmm. That was the pivot, right? Is like, it took all of that to get us both to this point that we're not two halves. Yes. We were never meant to be two halves. We have to show up as two wholes, because what we want to do is like world changing. Like we want to do big stuff. And if we want to do big stuff, we have to be whole. And then if we can come together as two wholes, how much more powerful will that be? Yes. And that's where we got in October. And we are still that. Once you get there, it's not like okay, cool. I know that I'm my whole and I'm back in touch. I can feel my intuition. We are good to go.
It's perfect.
I wish. And I think I said in the beginning, I won't say that it didn't make it easier, but it made it clear. And I don't feel lonely in it anymore, because now I'm back in touch with me. We'll get in fights and we'll get triggered, and we handle things so different, because we'll be like, you know what? I'm triggered. I'm going to walk away and I'm going to get curious about why I'm triggered. Yes. Curiosity is like such a key thing in this whole journey. And we have a long way to go, but there's this hump of realizing I'm the solution. I am not the problem.
Yeah.
I'm my own solution, and he is his own solution. I'm not his solution. He's not my solution.
Right.
And I can't carrying that stuff for him actually hurts him, and it hurts me.
Right.
And it creates a codependent relationship.
Exactly. And I think this is just so important, because not only in relationships, but just as women and mothers, it's when you said you're like carrying everybody, I feel like that's so common, putting stuff aside for our children, which of course some things you have to, but in the end, I feel like we tend to just put ourselves in the back burner in every way and think that the way to serve is to like be there in every way for your partner and your kids. And really you need to fill yourself to be able to give to them, which we might know that, but actually to really live that is so difficult sometimes.
Do you want to know a secret?
I do.
I felt like the worst mom. Like during this whole thing, because my oldest is 10. And so she was like 8, 9 during all of this. And she at one point came downstairs. Like I might cry during this, because it just hits home with that mom guilt. But like she came downstairs one time when me and Austin were just like yelling at each other. And she was just like, stop, please stop. And so you just feel like the worst person because you can't show up. And the secret is it's that you're not showing up for you. Because now I still, and arguably now I am 3 times as busy. We just moved again because we're crazy. I have so much on my plate. I'm trying to start another business. I'm in my 2nd year of Bonded, which is its own thing, right? And so I have so much going on, and yet I feel like a better parent. I can show up for my kids so much better than I did when I was trying to carry everything for them.
Exactly. Yes. Oh my gosh. You did. Yeah. There's no better way to say that. And it's so true. And it's, again, I know we hear it, but it's just until you actually, if you're searching of why you feel the way you do, I think what I'm trying to say, it's even in past relationships, like when you talk about codependent, in my past relationship, it was like all about helping him, because he was actually an addict. So I was like always trying to help him, always trying to help him. I lived for him, every move he made. And I thought I was just doing him a service. But in the end, I totally lost myself. Within 3 years of that relationship, I left not even knowing who I was. And in the end, it didn't help him. Like he didn't leave the relationship any better than so what happened here? And so you can look at it the same way for your children. And if you're always struggling and wanting to do something and feel something in your soul that you're meant for, but you feel like you have to do this for your children or your spouse or whoever, to really truly step into what you said and filling your own cup and just trying it in spirit, even though it might be really uncomfortable just to do.
I guarantee it will be I
know, you're right. It is going to
be. It will, especially with the conditioning that most women face.
Yes.
It will be one of the most uncomfortable things you do.
If you're in a relationship that is struggling, and especially if you're somebody who is wanting to start a business or in a business, because as we know, is a whole other pressure and things that you have to. But say your partner is not on board to work on the marriage. What is your advice to that person?
That's such a tricky one, right? I think my advice to them is that you have to start with you.
Yeah.
Because when you start with you and you get back in touch with you and you get back in touch with your intuition and your inner guidance and your inner knowing, because we all have it.
Yes.
And it's stripped away from us at some point. Once you get back in touch with that, you're able to show up with boundaries that are healthy for you. And for me, my husband met the challenge.
Yeah.
Like I feel really lucky because it did take, like, our marriage wasn't going anywhere because I was just trying to convince him. Yeah. And he like would do it for a week and then fall off. Right. And so it didn't change until I really got in touch with myself. And I said, these are my boundaries, my true self, my true knowing. I know what I am worth. I know what I deserve. This is my boundary. And as much as I love you and will always love you, if you can't meet that boundary, I am willing to walk away.
Yes.
And the second I hit that point, whether or not he shows up, which he did, and it's great. That's awesome. Yeah. And I've also seen so many stories where they didn't show up and they left and they found somebody who would show up. But it starts with you. You do your work first and everything else will follow.
It's so true. Because in the end, all you have is you. So whether or not, starting with, again, changing yourself, because we're always, even I can speak to my husband, for example, who is like on this, he's been getting healthier, right? Like eating healthier, working out. And at first I didn't want to join him. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But it's like if when you're influenced and see changes of the person that you're with, and it's positive changes too, and not only just the way his physical, but just his mental clarity and like him not drinking as much alcohol and all the things that like you tend to like, you obviously get influenced by that. Either I'm going to join him and get better with him, or it's going to separate us more. And it's the same concept in a relationship of just you being a better person, right? It doesn't mean they're always going to jump on with you like your husband did. Yeah. But in the end, it's you, it's your life. Like you're going to,
even if you walked, like, so let's say your partner doesn't jump on and you end up having to leave. If you've done the work, you don't need someone else to complete you. That's the whole concept, right? Women, we are very much so taught that we need a man to complete us, right? And I'm very much not we don't need men at all, right? But I don't need him to complete me.
Exactly.
I complete myself, and that will lead to everything else. That is the foundation of your house.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, even with boundaries. So back to when I first started my business, like I said, and I would want him to understand, Jordan, my husband's not an entrepreneur. He doesn't think the way I do. We're very different in that way, which is actually serves us. I think that's great. But in the beginning, like I said, when I was looking to fill in the holes of what I needed for the confidence of my journey of my business. But then once I discovered that I was coming home and unloading him about my business, expecting him to have some sage advice. And I'm like, he's not in. So then I had to get to a point, rather than being disappointed and looking and then his reaction, literally letting that play into my self-worth. I was like, okay, I'm not going to share with him about this part of my life. As I'm going to share with him, of course, what he needs to know, but not every little aspect. And that's when I turned to, again, coaches, mentors, networking groups, people that understood. I'm like, those are my people to talk to about this. And then through me growing this business and him seeing quote unquote success, seeing changes even within myself, then he joined in on the excitement and understanding more. But it wasn't me unloading, expecting him to fill my cup with it. It was like me setting a boundary and then realizing who I can turn to, how I can get the help and support I needed. And then it all fell into place.
Yeah, man, what a great example of that clarity and what that brings, right?
Yeah.
Fulfilling that yourself and then letting the people come in. And it's funny because have you ever heard the phrase, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Your partner is the person you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
Either your partner or the people around you, your friends, whatever, they're either going to, as you are working on yourself and growing, they're either going to want to grow with you or you're going to trigger them because you're going to be a mirror and they're going to be mad and they're not going to want to have anything to do with you and you're going to have to set boundaries. There's there's one or the other. And you have to get so in touch with yourself that you're okay with people not coming with you. Like people are in your life for a reason and they're in your life for a certain amount of time. And then it's okay to release them and to, in a positive light. Like, you don't have to be like, oh, I hate you now, let's not be friends. But like, I have this good friend who we're just on different we're just in different places in our lives. And I'm very much so, if you're friends with me and you're like, oh, I really want to start a podcast. I'm the friend that every time you see me, I'm going to be like, so tell me about your podcast. Did you start it? Oh, what do we need? Like, we could build your website, or let me help you get your LLC. Like, I'm a pusher.
Yes, totally.
And so she would say stuff and I would really push her, and that made her uncomfortable. That's not what she needed in her life. And we ended up sitting down, and it was so scary and uncomfortable for both of us. But we ended up sitting down and having this, we used to call them DTRs in high school, determine the relationship.
I love that. DTR.
Determine the relationship where like, we are still friends, and I love hanging out with her, and I love like spending times with her. But we like really laid down like, okay, hey, neither of us are each other's inner circle. We are not one of each other's five, because neither, like, we're not aligning, but we are on that next level circle because I really love you and I still want to spend time with you. And we sat down and had that conversation. And to this day, it's one of the most powerful conversations I've had, because I'm like, I can have my cake and eat it too. Like, I really can. I can keep my friends in different levels if they want to be there. And I can protect my energy and my space. So
it's so true, because there are like, and that took me a long time too, because I'm definitely a girl's girl. I have my girlfriends. I've had some girlfriends I've had since I was 11 years old. And like, when I got into this business world, it's my, I know not, and everybody gets on the phone and talks about their jobs, but for me, my business is like my life, right? Like, it's my passion. It's like such a big part of my life. So when I would share it with certain friends, I definitely wouldn't get like the feedback or what I wanted to hear. And I would just feel like, it's a feeling, like get off that conversation and be like, I would just feel down. I was like, they didn't say outwardly, oh yeah, you shouldn't do that. But it was just a vibe, right? Like, they didn't get it. And it took me a really long time, like you said, to have these, like, I hate to say it, but classifications, like you said, like boundaries for certain, okay, I know I can talk to this person about this. Even like you said, even relationships. I know this is a friend I go to when it comes to parenting, because maybe we have the same mindset or like views about parenting, and I can't, it's like me. There was one time when I first started being a parent, I kept asking and like really sharing frustrations with my friend who doesn't have kids. What was I thinking? Like, the stuff she would come back with, I'm like, oh my God. But it's like, you can't blame her. She has no idea. It's no idea.
Well, we live in the world of information, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't all mean it's good information.
Yes.
And so we're all absorbing information, and we all have filters. We are all filtering everything that comes in. There is millions of bits of information coming at us. And I think our brain processes 182 bits per second out of the millions, right? So we have to filter. And so when you go talk to someone about something, you really do. I would venture to say it is imperative that you find what I would call like safe people, right? There were certain people that I found that weren't necessarily the safest people to talk to about where I was at in my relationship, because when I would, like you said, when I would leave that conversation, I would feel less than, I would feel low. I would feel like back into this frequency of where I'd been before. And because I was aware of it, I'd be like, oh, wait, this is where I'm coming from. That's not where I want to go back to. And so I still have amazing, great relationships with those people. I just don't talk to them about that. If they ask, I'll share certain things. And if they ask for advice about their relationship, like, that's different. But I am very careful with like who I talk to about that, because within business, within relationships, within parenting, everything you do, you want to make sure that the people you're talking to are able to aren't coming at you from a totally different filter with their responses.
Right. And also just not from where you've walked. If they've never been there.
Behind you. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many stories I can think of, but actually one in particular, a friend of mine who was actually going to start her own business, and she was sharing it. And this is what's so hard. And I think it's such an amazing conversation to have, because it took me a really long time too to get to there. And I still struggle with this, because especially when it comes to family or people that you're really not saying forced to be around, but like literally, even that's why it was so hard with my significant other, because I'm like, this is my best friend. I'm supposed to be able to tell him everything. My mom, I want to tell her. My mom, I'm not going to lie, and love her if she's ever listening to this, but there's certain things like with my business too, she doesn't really understand that. I can't like unload and tell her all these things and expect to get what I want from her with that, because that's just not, unfortunately.
Well, again, seeking something outside yourself that you actually just need to find in yourself first.
Yes, true. Yeah,
right?
true. And it's just somebody, like you said, that you have your safe people. Really, for her, for that relationship, that's not a person I talk to about business, like mainly. I'll tell her the highlights, and then even this friend who was starting a business, her mother-in-law would be like, again, when you're fresh, starting something new, especially when you're looking to leave a full-time job and take a risk, really be careful about who you talk to, because you need all the support that you can get in a positive way, because you can let somebody that you might even know, okay, she has no idea, but it's this person that you love and care about. So no matter what, if they say something that is going to get to you, it's going to get to you. If they're putting doubt into you, it's hard not to let that permeate a little bit. And so I had to remind her and also talk her through that, like, well, your mother-in-law doesn't really know. And she's not of that world. She doesn't really understand, because she's coming from a place of care. Like when people are scared for someone to take that risk and say they've never done it before. And they're like, well, are you sure this is okay? You have to think about this. And you have to think about this. And so it freaks you out. You leave that conversation like, oh my God, now I can't do this.
They're on a totally different path. Like I think something that was really releasing for me, like it gave me a lot of freedom I would venture to say most people do not believe this, but this idea that like everybody is doing the best that they can with what they have. And if that is true, like we are all on our own journeys, right? So this mother-in-law, like she's on her own journey, and that whole entrepreneur thing, that is not in her heart, because it's not meant to be part of her journey. Because if something's in your heart, then it's for you. And so if you're talking to somebody about something that's not in their heart, they're going to be like, you're crazy. Like when I left college to be a photographer, my parents, like my dad in particular, was like, what are you doing? Like everybody was like, okay, this is just like a hobby, right? You can't make money doing this. Like my whole family's in the medical field. Like my one sister is a hairdresser. And so I think that would like help me a little bit. But other than that, it was like, what is she doing? And then 5 or 6 years in, they were like, oh my gosh, my sister's the best photographer. She's amazing. So they'll get there. But at the end of the day, I can't let someone else will never have that in their heart dictate the path I take for something that is in my heart. And that's why you seek out people who have similar things in their heart, like mentors or coaches. Cause like I couldn't find somebody in my life during my whole like relationship marriage thing. And my husband has really struggled to find that person, which is why he wants to create this men's group, because we couldn't find people. Like we were actively searching for these friends who would fit into this 5 people. But because of where we're at in the journey, we had really high standards. Like we needed somebody who was very particular. And so we had to find that in like our therapist and in myself, in my own self, myself through coaching school. When Austin, he had to find that from our therapist and in himself. And so like when you can't find those people, like I just got off a coaching call the other day with a client, and she was like, I just don't know who to look up to. And so we sat down, and this can be a takeaway. This is a great exercise. If you're struggling with who to talk to about stuff, I want you to sit down and write out, like design this person of who your mentor would, like who would they be? And it's either design somebody who like you would want to be like, or write out what you would want your life to look like. Or if there's people that you are constantly getting jealous of, like on social media, slow down and look at what their life looks like and say, oh, I wonder if I'm jealous because it's something that I want. Like I wonder if I'm being triggered. And so take a second and then build out, what does this person look like? And then start putting it out there, right? Start putting that frequency, start asking the guides or God or whoever you believe in to bring that person into your life. Because once you know who it is, you can look for it. And then you just have to surrender and let it happen. And it can come in such crazy forms, whether it's a friend or somebody you meet at coffee or in your workout class, or like for me, it was a therapist. And then this random school, like I have a video of me when I signed up for coaching school. I was like in a full panic attack because my spirit and my heart was like, this is for you. Like you've been asking for this person, you've been asking for this mentor, this guide, and you have to go through this coaching program. So my spirit and my intuition that I had just got back in touch with was like, we're doing this. This is for you. It's now or never. This is your thing. And it was expensive. My whole body was like, oh, hell no. This is scary. This is uncomfortable. This is not what I want to do. This is totally an unfamiliar heaven type of thing. Like, I do not want to do this. And so I'm like shaking and bawling and like trying to put my credit card information in. And it was so hard. But I knew that was what I was supposed to do. Yes. And people say it all the time. I know. If you are saying I know about something and I'm not taking action, there's a bridge that needs to get built.
Definitely. If you're thinking about it all the time, like if you can't escape it, it's your gut, right? It's your soul talking to you. I truly believe that. Even when it comes to relationships, just thinking about, I know like bouncing back and forth, but this is all related to, of course, we're talking about. When in my past relationship, I would actually think at night, how would I leave him? Like, what would I do when I'm single? If these things are, I'm like, why am I thinking about this all the time? But it's obviously that was like, but I would try to like stuff that down, but it's, if these things are constantly coming up for you, they definitely are something your soul needs, and to answer that. And really getting back to, of course, the mentor thing that you said, I think it's so important. Like you said, even if you scroll through your feed and you're feeling a certain way, just be so aware of your feelings when you come across things. That's how
curiosity. I think that's the key, right? Don't judge yourself. And that's what I'm like, this is an ongoing lesson. So I'm like preaching to myself as I say this, right? But it's curiosity, right? Like, how do we be curious about these thoughts and not judge them? Right? Because it's not that it's inherently bad. Our subconscious, its whole job is to protect us. And different parts of us have learned these different ways to protect us that at one time did serve us. In fact, a story, heard this story from a friend the other night, and he was like, think about this man, right? And he's trying to get across a river. So he builds a raft to get across the river. And it was so helpful getting him across the river. And then he gets to the other side of the river and he's, oh my gosh, this raft was so helpful. Puts it on his back and starts carrying it. That's kind of what we do, right? It served and it protected us for a time, and then it stops serving us and it starts to become a burden. And so it's like figuring out, okay, what parts of me are a burden now, and do I need to let go, and how do I reprogram them into being like, I'm just trying to protect you. So I don't have to be mad at those parts. They're not bad. They're just trying to protect me. And so if I can just get curious and be like, hey, why am I so like Susie Holman? And love you, Susie. Super triggering for me for a long time. So we were like photographers way back when together. And then she went on this whole like journey of becoming this amazing coach. And there was a period in time that I was so triggered by her, and I knew I was. And so like, I was so triggered by her because she was doing everything that I wanted to be doing. And I was like, I wish I could be like her. I'm not good enough. If only I could, oh my gosh, what? And so like, sometimes I look at that and like, even as that would come up of, oh, I wish I could be like Susie, I would beat myself up and be like, Susie's such a great person. Like, why are you like harboring these negative feelings towards her? But it wasn't, it was just like, it's trying to help me. It's trying to tell me something.
Exactly. All those feelings, gut feelings, just again, being so aware of them. Cause like you said, turning everything into curiosity, if like the whole jealousy thing, if you're getting jealous, of course, our one thing is just go right to being, like you said, like angry, right? It's triggering. But it's like also, but stopping and asking ourselves, like, why am I feeling? Just observe it, observe your feelings, ask why you're feeling that way, and let that serve you. Like, okay, what is it telling me about myself? And again, what I'm lacking, what I'm missing, why am I envious of her or that situation? And how can I have that more in my life or embody that? And just like you said, how you went to her retreat this month, actually, it's like putting yourself in a room of people like that you're like this level of envy, right? I always said that. Even the first mastermind I was in, I was definitely, and I'll say it every day, like I was the dumbest person in the room. That's how I truly feel. I was way out of my element. I didn't know jack about business at that point. And I just can't believe I look back and what a different person in that way of my self-assurance and things that I was back then. But it only served me to be in part of that mastermind. Once you grow, you can't go back, like you said. So it just forces you to grow. It forces you to see it, and being around that mindset of people like that you are envious of, basically, it's like, it just levels you up. You have no choice but to level up.
Yeah. And it becomes almost like this positive peer pressure. Yes. Like peer pressure exists. It's a thing. Like, so like you might
influence. We're influenced constantly.
You might as well use it for the positive, right? If you're going to let peer pressure influence you, then put yourself in a room of people you want to be like. because it's right. We're all operating at frequency, right? Like we are 99% energy, right?
Yeah.
And so we're all operating at this frequency. And so if I can put myself in a room of people who are at the frequency I'm trying to get to, it's like a fast track, right? Like I'm in this, I went to this retreat, right? And now there's coaching. It's like a coaching container after. And every time I get on that stupid call and I've spent a week like falling into this, like beating myself up or like overthinking my content of, okay, how do I share this? I want to be delicate and I want to say it the way and I want to do this and I don't want to alienate, but I want to be clear. And I don't like all of these cycles that we all go through and it never ends, right? Every time I get on that stupid call and people are like, oh, here's my wins and this is what I did and it was so uncomfortable and I hated it, but look what happened and I got this client and I did this, and I'm like, I'll be damned if I'll be the one that gets left behind. No way. I'm gonna catch up in my own way, and it's not about doing it like them. Like I just have to trust my own timing, but I am not going to get left behind. Like I'm going to be with these guys. Like I'm in this room with them. And so it's like the fastest shortcut you can take is putting yourself in the room where you are the dumbest one in the room. What is the intention? Or like we do it with where we live. Like the reason we moved so many times is because we would get in a place and we would find that, okay, there's no one right around us that we're spending time with that we want to be like. And that's not to say that we didn't have some good friends in a couple places, but like they were just living different types of lives. And we knew that we needed to be in the room with people or surrounded by people who wanted to be there. Like we just moved into this house that like I feel like I don't belong in. Like it's not a fancy house. And we just moved in. And I was talking to this one of my coaching clients, and she was just like, I just don't even know. I've never even stepped foot in something nice. But it's really on my heart. Like I just like environment is so important to me and it lifts me up, and the frequency of where I'm at. And it made me realize that something that we have always done is we have always put ourselves in positions where we were the poorest and we were the dumbest. Yeah. Because if we can be the poorest and the dumbest, then it's going to pull us up to the next level, right?
Okay. So real quick before we like cap this off and ask to where people can find you and how to get coaching and what you're going to be presenting soon, because I'm so interested and I feel like I want to be involved in some way. But let's tie this into permanent jewelry really fast. I know we're going to have another talk, but like with growing your permanent jewelry business, because going into that really quick, you did start in 2022 on your own with it, correct?
Yeah.
2022. Mm-hmm. Okay. So 2023 was your first full year. But how do you feel that lent into this journey of like with permanent jewelry into the coaching and all this amazingness that's happened self-development with you in the past couple of years?
Oh my gosh, they're so intertwined. And I remember when I decided to do the franchise, I was like, this makes no sense. I actually can't, like even until I think a couple of weeks ago, I couldn't figure out why I was supposed to have the space that I have. And I think such a big part of it is like how I show up for my clients. Yeah. Because like we talked about earlier, like what your business in it is an extension of you. And once you figure out your why is how you serve your clients. And so for me, this all comes together in a way of a couple different things. First of all, the client thing, like I'm able to show up for my clients in a way where like when my clients sit down to get a permanent jewelry, like a bracelet, they are not just here to get a bracelet. It is not about the bracelet. Yes. I can guarantee that I have good metals. I have proprietary techniques with how I connect them. Like you are getting top-notch high quality, and I guarantee it, period, with the jewelry.
That's awesome.
Setting that aside, it's not about the jewelry. I am going to sit there, and whether it's you coming in on your own because you just broke up with your boyfriend and you are starting a new phase of your journey, I'm going to hold space for you. Yeah. And you can show up exactly how you are and feel safe in who you like, where we're at. And as we're putting on this journey, now we're getting into the woo shit. We are going to imbue this piece of jewelry with so much love and positivity and high frequency that every time you look at it, it's like an anchor and it's going to pull you up just a notch. Or you're going to come in with your people and it's going to do the same thing. And so like my coaching has really been so intertwined with the experience I provide on the permanent jewelry side, because my whole thing in general as a business owner is client experience. Like that's my thing. Like I'm top notch at it. I can see holes in other people's really easy. And so that's how the coaching intertwines. But I think also I jumped into this. Literally, I was talking to my friends and I'm in the middle of my freaking marriage falling apart. And there's no reason I should have started this. I was having like a crisis, right? I should have just taken time, right? Should have. but
Yeah.
they like something popped up from one of them they'd shared about, or I was talking to them. I don't even remember how it came about, but it popped up that they were just about to do franchises. And I messaged them and I was like, I'm flying to Utah, because I was in North Carolina at this time. And I was like, I'm flying to Utah next week. Can you train me? And then that was it. And I was only there for 2 days. And so they like packed everything they could in 2 days. And then I came home and just went ham to the wall. I did like hundreds of free bracelets. I sent them so many pictures of, is this right? Or how is this? What's the way to do this? Or what about this on the machine? And I I almost blacked out. Like I have no idea how I ended up here. And bringing it back to this, like your business will heal you. I needed bonded so much. Like what I give people in bonded is connection, like on a deep level. And that's what I needed so bad at the time. And that's why I needed permanent jewelry and bonded, is because I was looking for the connection. So people would sit in my chair and not only would I be giving them connection, but they didn't know that they were giving me connection, and that they were like, I just had people to talk to in the hardest time of my life when I didn't have any friends. Like all of a sudden, these people who sat in my chair, they're my best friend for 20 minutes.
Yes. It's
so true. So I think that those are the two connections for sure. It's like how I show up for my clients, and I'm able to serve my clients on a level that is so much deeper than just like my physical product. And then also just that I needed the healing that came with building the business.
Yeah. And the only thing I'll add to that, and why I think, because again, this is a conversation I'll have many times, because obviously that's what I love about permanent jewelry too, is the connection piece. But that's what I think plays into longevity of permanent jewelry, because I think some people worry about the fact that it's a trend. But I do think I see how special it is, that I'm like, how could that go out of style? You know what I mean? Just with like, how can connection go out of style, really? So I think it's here to stay for that reason. It's the experience. It's yes, it's a jewelry. It's beautiful. It's all the things, but it's the connection.
100%. And once you get to that point, your business changes.
Yes.
Once you're able to show up for your clients and that's like working backwards, right? Figuring out you so you can figure out your why, because your why feeds how you can show up for your clients in connection.
Exactly. Like I said, the inner work stuff, again, it's always ongoing, but to get like really clear on that, which is, I know what you're doing with your coaching, is literally, if I would have done that in the very beginning of starting my business, again, I don't regret anything, of course.
Millionaires right now. If we had done that at the very beginning, we'd be just like, woo.
I know. I'd be basically like next Oprah.
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing.
No, but I don't regret. And that's why we can speak to the wisdom of what we went through to help others, because that's why it's so great that you're such a great mentor and coach for people, is because we did go through that on our own. But again, if I did though, do that work in the very beginning and really get clarity. Say we're constantly evolving in that clarity. We have to constantly do that. It's not just one time and you're like, okay, cool. No, because our businesses change, we change, our lives change. That's why it's like we rarely sit down and really reassess and ask ourselves, has our why changed? Has our intentions changed? Is this bringing as much joy as it used to? Like, and that's in relationships, in business, and in work, and everything.
You have to do that every year. And I think one thing that actually saved I would venture to say was a piece in saving my marriage, was that we sit down every single year and do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Without fail. Since 6 years ago, when we were like super poor, we were like, we don't want this anymore. So how do we change it? The first thing you do is decide what you want. And so we sit down very intentionally every single year and set new intentions and new goals. In fact, this year, me and Austin are doing a workshop in March, late March, early February. So I'll share more information on my page about it. But because this year we decided to set intentions in January and set goals in the spring, because on a biological level, that's what we're designed to do. We're designed to rest and reflect in the winter, and then really hit the ground running in March. And setting and being really clear and reviewing where you've been once a year is imperative for your growth.
Yeah, so true. Oh my gosh, amazing. I can't wait to see where this goes with coaching and everything for you. So I know we could keep talking forever, but where can we find you? Where can we start following, get all the deets, like share with us if you have what your plans are for coaching as of now. I know we'll be seeing a lot from you, but give us all the goods.
Yeah. So if you're interested in following me, permanent jewelry, it's bonded.charlotte. And then my personal page is Michael Alyse Taylor. Alyse is spelled Alyse. So just FYI. And then Michelle has 2 L's. But you can find me there. And then as far as the coaching, I'm about to do, so I'm hoping to open up a beta group. So I'm trying to build you guys a roadmap, right? Like a shortcut. Because again, it's not about me bringing you the answers. It's about me helping you find your own answers and getting back in touch with you. But I had to stumble through figuring that out. And so my goal is to say, okay, I'm going to give you an outline and I'm going to help you make this a lot easier. And I'm going to show you the path. There's all these different paths you can take, and you can tell me which path you want to take, and then I'll walk you to the next fork. And so I'm building out this outline in this program. And so I'm going to be doing a beta of it, hopefully opening the doors late February is the goal. I was trying to open the doors this week, but it's just lots going on. So I'm hoping to open that the late February, and it's going to be mostly like really a lot of one-on-one. I'm still trying to decide if I want to do a group aspect of it, because that was a big piece for me, is that I was so alone, and I just wanted people that understood, even if they didn't understand my story, they understood the feelings I was having. But it will be majority like one-on-one coaching. So you're going to be coaching with me one-on-one a ton, and it'll be beta priced, which I like. It's going to be a lot lower than anything else will be moving forward. And that's not to say this will be an investment, because I truly believe that financial investment equals personal investment. And we're going to be doing some hard shit. And it's too easy for you, if you only paid $100, to be like, oh, this is uncomfortable, I don't want to do it. So it is still going to be an investment, but it's going to be a lot less than what my future investments are going to be. So if this is something that any of like your listeners are interested in, please come follow me. I'm ramping up my social media. It's like a whole thing, right? Like I'm building out the content on like how to talk about this, because it is a hard subject, and it's tender, right? Like me and my husband, we're still trying to figure out like, how do we share this? And it feels really vulnerable to show up in this space. I would love for any of your followers or listeners who are dealing with this to come follow me and send me their stories. And I want to build this program with their help. So I think it can really change the trajectory and speed up the messy middle, because man, that messy middle is
I know. We all deal with it. We all do. All right. Thank you so much for your time. This was an amazing, oh my gosh, so many things to dive into and to consider in any stage. I promise
we'll talk about a bunch of permanent jewelry stuff next time.
I know. That's what's so amazing, because honestly too, whether or not, the relationship aspect, but it's funny if someone is listening to this that's considering permanent jewelry or already has an existing business, it's really awesome that you do have both those, where it's like that knowledge of just knowing what that side is like to have a permanent jewelry business, because it is helpful too, to understand that what your life is like a little bit. Yeah, so absolutely. I think that's going to even be more serving for people who are interested in your coaching. So anyway, thank you so much. I look forward to chatting with you again, talking all permanent jewelry.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. We'll talk to you next time.
Okay, good. Bye.
Well, how do you feel? I hope this episode inspired you in some way. I would love to hear from you. So visit me on Instagram at Goldie Links Jewelry, or at my website at goldie-links.com. I'm always down to chat. Have a golden day, and I'll see you next time.